Welcome to the Stand Like Men Podcast. I'm Logan Ingram.
And I'm Daniel Trollenberg.
And we are here exploring what biblical masculinity is. We're trying to have that conversation. We're going over topics that you guys send in, stuff that we have seen in our own lives and in the church and whatnot. We're trying to address some of these things that we think will be really helpful for men trying to live biblical masculine lives.
Yeah. And if you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you would like and subscribe and leave us a comment. And if you have any questions or comments or episode topics, or if you want to, or if you have somebody that you want us to interview, send them to standlikemen@gmail.com. Speaking of interviews, if you're on the YouTubes, you can kind of see that we are on location right now. This is not the studio that we normally are in. And that's because we can't fit 3 people in the studio. Well, we probably could, but Keith wouldn't want to.
Maybe one day we will once we move a bunch of junk out of the storage room.
You can fit a lot of people in here.
Yes. Yeah, we could.
But you could probably fit a third person, but they'd have to sit on the table.
Yeah, they would.
And Keith, do you want to sit on this table?
I might lay down on it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm kind of digging this setup.
That's nice.
This is not cramped and claustrophobic.
No, it's nice. You can get up and walk around. I hate the cable management, but it was a rush job.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's
fine. You got the space. You can walk around it.
100%.
Anyway, we should talk to our guest now.
Yeah, I reckon so.
Who is our guest?
So Mr. Keith English is the youth minister here at Highway Church of Christ in Judsonia, Arkansas. Keith, how long you been in ministry?
Well, that is a great question. First of all, I want to thank you guys for having me on. I know I've already said that, but I wanted to make sure that I thank you guys because I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's very much needed, and just thanks for having me.
And we're glad you're here. I mean, Keith is one of my good friends, and I've know his wife, daughters, son. Son worked for me for a bit. See one daughter all the time at church, and him and his wife work real close with our kids. I've got kids in the youth group, so yeah, it's been really great getting to know Keith the last couple of years.
So to answer your question, probably around 2000, we were at Cloverdale, and as our oldest daughter got into the youth group, we were those parents that wanted to be involved with everything, just tag along with everything, volunteer for everything, be there. And I got to be honest, it was something that we really enjoyed, getting to know all the kids that were in the youth groups, and that led into teaching some of the. I think it was 6th grade, which I kind of got roped into that. You know how that happens in churches; you kind of get pulled in and sucked in, and then next thing you know, you've been there. But so for several years we did that, and when we made the swap to come to Highway, it was just natural for us to do the same thing. And so to answer your question, around 25 years of youth ministry experience, but I've been full-time here at Highway for this May started our 13th year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what did you do before you got into ministry?
Okay. So several different things straight out of high school. Manufacturing jobs, kind of took a trades route kind of thing, and worked in several different industries, auto industry, CNC manufacturing, and then ultimately I was one of the managers at a plant in Little Rock, where I woke up at 4:30 every morning, headed down there. There were some days in the wintertime when you didn't see the sunlight.
Yeah.
Getting up that early and then leaving late in the afternoon, 4:30, 5 o'clock. But so I use that as a connection point with parents a lot. That I didn't go the traditional route to be in this ministry role, I guess. So whenever I tell a parent, look, I know what you're going through. You're working a lot of hours. You're chasing these kids all over the place. You're taking them to different places. School is $20 you to death, it feels like. Hit the holidays, and by the way, Wednesday night, church, Sunday, that kind of thing. So I really feel like that was a leg up for me, having children already that were teenagers in a youth group, kind of. I don't want to say been there, done that, because each kid is different, but I did have a different level of experience working with kids at that point.
Yeah.
Whenever I started here. So
You have a traditional upbringing from the church? Like, were you raised in the church?
not really. I remember probably around 3rd and 4th grade, my grandmother would get us up Sunday mornings and she would send us out the door. And this sweet lady, she would come pick us up every Sunday morning in her brown citation that would fit, 7 or 8 kids in there. And that's what she would do. She would make the loop on the dirt roads, picking up kids.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the Free Will Baptist Church in Hopewell, Arkansas, and going in there and feeling like everybody there was my uncle or my aunt or my grandmother, And so that was kind of an odd thing looking back on, that the kids went to church, the adults didn't. And it wasn't every Sunday. It was, when they got us up kind of thing, But I'll never forget coming home one day, and I had that book, that was about as big as this piece of paper, and it had all these questions about the story you would read. And I sat there on the arm of my grandma's chair, her recliner, and we answered them. We'd go down through there and I'd write down the answers. And I don't remember any of the lessons. I don't remember any of the topics even. But I remember her saying very clear to me, "You might make a preacher someday," was her words. And that stuck with me for a long time. Just those words of encouragement there really, really meant a lot to me later on in life.
Yeah.
When do you think your relationship with Christ started? Did you feel connected, or was it later on in life?
As I mentioned before, I think it was like a VBS or like a Sunday morning at church, and 3rd, 4th grade, I did the sinner's prayer.
Oh yeah.
Had the conversation, went home and told, everybody back at the house, I'm saved now and I want to be baptized next. And like I said, it was kind of sporadic, so that never happened. But I remember that moment of thinking, okay, now I get it. At 8 years old, what you can understand at that point. Mm-hmm. But really at age 19 is where, I'm working at night. I got a young daughter at home. I'll never see her kind of thing. And you're pushing buttons for a living, and you're standing there and you're going, there's got to be a lot more to Christianity than what I'm currently experiencing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whenever I made the decision. Around that time, my brother-in-law had quit his job, just didn't have a plan. He quit his job and went into full-time ministry.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was an odd thing because you admired that kind of faith, from the outside, but at the same time you have family who are kind of against it because, well, what's your plan kind of thing,
Right.
And he wound up planting, I think, 4 or 5 churches across the United States that are still going. It was a big deal, and his faith really kind of spurred me on a little bit to try to see this as something that you take a little deeper into your life. So at 19, I clearly remembered I was baptized, and it took a while to really grasp a lot of that stuff. I know this one thing. I know what's here, and I don't want that. Let's go see what this looks like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so probably there was like a 6-year period there where I was really digging into Scripture. I'd go home and this was pre-internet kind of thing, so all the research you did, you had to have your Bible sitting there and then maybe a commentary.
Yeah.
And I remember on that computer sitting there all day, just typing up questions, and then trying to find an answer, and then typing up another question and trying to find an answer. Now, one of the things that did for me was probably make me early on a little legalistic, because I really didn't have the practice yet. It was a lot of theory in what this looked like.
Yeah, and commentary from other people who are probably that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just depends on the commentary that you grab.
Oh, yeah, and looking back on it, it was probably one of the most conservative outlooks on stuff, which is
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
It's just when you're by yourself trying to figure this out and
Yeah.
looking through it, it can kind of put that track in your mind a little
Yeah.
bit. So
Is there one person that you can credit as like the spiritual guide for you?
oh yeah. So and I think I may have told both of you guys this story before. There was a promotion at work that had come up, and this long train of events had led me to believe at this point, you need to ask about this, and you need to be the one to go. You're doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
Go ask about it. Get moved into that role, and see what happens. And looking back on it, it was really you say it all the time. It was a God thing, right? I didn't get it, and I was not happy. The guy that they hire, he comes in with no experience in that job.
Yeah.
Now, he had ran other plants and all this kind of stuff. But he was somebody who he walked his faith every day. And you could tell it. When we would have conversations to the side, it was praise Jesus, praise the Lord, all these. And being around a spirit-filled person in that role was huge for me. His name was Todd Howe, and I will never forget the influence he had on me at that time. A lot of ego had to be checked at the door, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, I turned in my notice that I was going to work somewhere else, and I was still a little bit upset. And he told me, he said, you can do this job. He said, there's no doubt you're going to be missed when you're gone. And it's funny because exactly 1 year later, I come home on a Saturday morning. We had been out playing soccer. Our kids had soccer. And I get home and there was a message on the machine, and it's Todd asking me to go to work for him. He had moved on to that plant in Little Rock, and he had asked me to come down there. And he said, a position came open, and I knew this is the guy I want. Interview him, bring him in, let's put him to work. So,
That's
then
awesome.
we had 4 more years of working together. It's pretty amazing to kind of experience that and be supported by him and encouraged. So,
Man, that's amazing.
yeah. So I look to him a lot. I think my wife, there's a lot to be said for a woman who doesn't give up on you. Even though you're trying a different path and she sees you doing well and then failing, doing well and then failing. My wife, Angela, she was a major part of helping me try to figure out life in general and trying to figure out what this faith walk would look like, so.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit, just for a couple minutes, about your relationship with your wife, Angela, and how that's impacted you spiritually, because we've had an episode already about godly women and their impact on a man's life.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear how Angela's affected you.
Yeah. So Angela and I met. We started dating in high school, and we I don't know what it was. I wish I could explain it, but you guys are married, so you kind of know. But I just remember thinking, like, that's the woman I could see myself being with. Mm-hmm. And I know high school, I get it, but
Yeah.
I was raised a little different. I had to grow up a little faster, kind of thing. So and we can touch on some of that if you want, but I just know that to put it real, just simply, when somebody can see the hell that you've been through in your eyes and not flinch or back away from that, it's real.
Yeah.
When the scary stuff comes out in conversation, or when the things that, you don't share with everybody come out, and they don't even bat an eye at it. They're just in it with you, there to move forward. And I think that, in a lot of ways, a woman who you choose to spend your life with grows a man up.
Yeah.
Kind of helps him to see there's a lot of important things, but that's the core, and that's the most important thing, and then you start having children, and that's the most important thing too, along with this idea that you're going to have a godly household. And I think, I've read the different studies, and I can't remember the numbers, but whenever a father comes to Christ in the home, it's like the umbrella unfolds and everything starts to piece together. If the wife is doing it by herself and the guy's not interested or falls away somehow, that kind of thing, that it's a little more difficult for the children in the home to follow in their steps as far as, having a godly marriage and a godly family.
Yeah.
And so I would say that she has been vital in my development, in my learning to see people who love others no matter what. I mean, she is an example of someone that, I can't even think of anybody else like her. She wants the best for everyone. And when she sees it, she's grateful and she's thankful about it. And then she celebrates them and wants to help them achieve more, and that's rare, that somebody has that kind of energy to put into others, instead of being inwardly focused all the time. And so that's what I'm reminded of with her, is that she does a really good job of forgiving others, looking past their flaws, and wanting the best for them. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's invaluable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How do you think she makes you become the man that God wants you to be?
Well, she said, in the alone time, it's the person you're honest with, and you drop the guard of, trying to, kind of, I don't want to say that, you put on a mask or anything, but you have a guard up all day, and then you get home and you can be straightforward and honest about what's up. And that's the person that's going to tell you made a wrong decision here, or you did the right thing there. But, having that person who can be honest with you in every situation is important. And, we talked about before how you need men in your lives that you can tell them about everything. A man, a friend, a confidant. But you also need that relationship at home. And if you find that the time gets away from you, or you're not intentional about making the time for that, is when you start to see the fall off from that.
Yeah.
And she understands, I'm sure you guys are a lot the same. She understands the decisions I make, right or wrong, almost before I really understand them sometimes. I know why you did this. I know why you're going this direction, but you may want to think about this or think about this too.
Yeah.
Because the viewpoint that she has is very important to me, so that I'm not just trying to do it my way all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable saying that y'all's marriage is a partnership.
Oh yeah.
Is there ever a moment that, like, when she submits, what makes her feel comfortable to do that? Like, what are you doing that is allowing her to do that? Because I know you well enough to know that it's not out of domination.
Yeah.
And so, like, when she submits, like, how does that look? What does that look like? And that's not a great question, but I'm going to turn it over to you to see how it goes.
Okay. So I understand where you're coming from with this, because in any marriage, there's going to be conflict, disagreements, that kind of thing. Oh, that's human nature anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think over the years, since we've been together so long, that we've really learned to let the little things go.
Yeah.
This is worth arguing about. This is about sitting down and having a conversation about. And these 7 or 8 other things, we've learned to live with those together. Does that make sense? Every now and then there's that moment where I know this is her decision and she's made it, and that's the direction we're going. And I try to take the same attitude that she does in saying that's the decision we're going with here. And she's supportive of that. Which, interestingly enough, we've worked here for 13 years together. When we interviewed with our eldership, that was part of the interview, was sitting there with them and them asking her questions too. And she has been sold out on board You know, she's a hero in that way. You know, she's working a full-time job herself, plus helping take care of these girls in our youth group and keep me, you know, in line. So, but I would say when I don't think there's like a look or a stern word that has to be said. It's just, this is the way it has to be done. And we both understand that there's other things going on here. Maybe I can't figure out how to explain it. Or maybe I don't fully understand the situation myself, but this is the direction we need to go. And she's really good about reading that in me and me reading that in her. So
yeah, well, that takes trust and, you know, built up. It's a long, what is it? Not long, almost long suffering kind of, but it's trust built up over time and through a good relationship. You don't just like arrive at that generally at the very beginning.
Right.
It takes going through the trials, going through hard stuff, and give and take. I'm sure it's earlier. I know for us, me and Cindy, early in marriage, it's like we're trying to figure out where those lines are and when, you know, what the right decisions are and when each other needs us to follow the other one and go ahead and do what they would like to do in that situation.
And having a common goal.
Yeah.
Like having a common mutual goal of like, we are going to bring glory to the kingdom. We're going to work for God. We're going to, like, anything that we do is going to be for Jesus. And so I've got nothing else.
Yeah, you're presenting a unified front.
If one of the teammates in that or partners in that isn't on board with that, it's going to be a long road.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Thinking about what you said, Logan, I've heard it said a lot of times that the wedding is not the marriage, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the wedding is a ceremony that introduces you to this world you're about to step into, and it is day by day, moment by moment. And then that leads into the weeks, the months, the years, and next thing you know, you turn around and it's been 30-something years. You know? And you look back and you're like, man, she put up with a lot. You know, she really is a saint for putting up with somebody like me, you know, somebody as broken as I am sometimes. So
thank you for listening to the Stand Like Men podcast. We really appreciated Keith coming in and having a conversation with us. This was episode 31. We've actually got 2 more parts coming up, so tune in next week to hear part 2 of our conversation with Keith.
Our verse is 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14.
Be watchful.
Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong.
Let all that you do be done in love.